Welcome to the Treasure Coast Market Update. Today, I'm going to give you some wild stats about Port St. Lucie that you're going to love. Stay tuned.
You better get fired up.
Guys, what's going on? Happy Tuesday. You're probably thinking, Tuesday? Joe, you do this on Wednesdays. What's going on? I'm actually going to be up in Tallahassee at our Capitol tomorrow and Thursday. Just kind of checking out how the government works, man. We got to check in on them every once in a while, right? So I thought I'd do this a little bit early because I know some of you guys don't want to miss the update. So let's see what's going on with the market. And I'll tell you, I share this with my team every single Monday, and the stats have been kind of gloomy here for the last couple months. They haven't really been something that I've been excited to share. I'm going to share it no matter what, but it's not exciting to share it. But all of a sudden, we're starting to see some phenomenal stats coming back really quickly, and it's something I want to share with you guys because I think it'll take a little bit of the doom and gloom out of your step, man, which is awesome. All right, how do we... They're changing things up on me. All right, here we go. Share screen. Here's my option, and boom. You should be able to see it now. So what I've got up right now that you should be able to see, these are Port St. Lucie single-family home stats. So they don't include condos, townhouses, vacant land, rentals, anything like that. It's just single-family homes, and it's just Port St. Lucie, okay? These are not stats that I gathered from somewhere. These are stats that I personally pull every single Monday and put them into a spreadsheet. These are homegrown, homemade statistics, baby. So what is all this? Let's not pay attention to the left here quite yet. Let's just look across the top dates, right? So this is the beginning of the first quarter of last year. This is the first Monday of quarter 2 last year, first Monday of quarter 3, quarter 4. So that's all 2024. Okay. And you can see there's hidden rows in between. That's every single Monday is in there. But once we get to, this far, we start hiding some. So now we've got them by month. Here's the first month, or the Monday of the first month of 2025. Here's the first Monday of the second month, the first Monday of the third month, and the first Monday of this month, which was yesterday. All right. And then this last little column over here, this is year to date. So it's comparing this column to the beginning of the year, which is this column. Okay. Has nothing to do with this. It's comparing this to this. Yesterday to the first Monday of the year. All right. So let's start looking at some stuff. And the first thing we're going to look at is this right here. These 4 columns right here. Not columns. These are rows. So you can see the actives at the beginning of the year were 1742. That's your competition as a seller. How many people are you competing against? A year before that, it was 1,388. Now it went up dramatically to 1,742. That's scary. And it continued to go up. You'll see to 2,132. But for the first time, and I want to open up some of these right here. Unhide. You can see it actually peaked out the week prior at 2,152. And this dropped to 2119, didn't match this week, or this week, or this week, or this week, or this week. You'd have to go all the way back to February to see a week where we had that level of inventory. That's great. A reduction in inventory makes the market stronger, okay? But we're still up 21.6 from the first of the year, or I should say the first Monday of the year. Now, when you put that into different categories, right, up to 500 grand and 500 grand and more, you can see that up to 500 grand is at a 19.4% increase in inventory, but 500,000 plus has had a bigger uptick, over 25%, right? 1089 to 1300 versus 664 up to 832. But essentially, both price points are seeing 20 to 25% increases in the amount of other homes you have to compete against on the market. So if you're a seller, that's a challenging thing. If you're a buyer, it's a phenomenal thing. Okay. Median asking price. Now I tell people, don't get too excited about this. It's an asking price. People can ask $1 million. It's funny how buyers always want to look at the crappiest comp we can ever find, right? And a comp is a sale that is like the home that we're looking at. And they'll find something that's 500 square feet smaller. It's got neighbors on both sides with rusted out pickups. It hasn't been updated in the last 40 years. And that's what they use as a comp. What does a seller use as a comp? the next door neighbor with 500 more square feet that's not even sold, and they're asking 200 grand more than it's worth. So I always say, don't take too much stock in an asking price, but you can see even from the beginning of last year, 469.9, 473, 470, 469, 69, 468, 469. We've dropped to 465.9. That's beautiful. That means people are starting to move their prices in accordance with the fact that we've got more inventory in the market. I think that's great for buyers. And it's showing a little bit of realism on the part of sellers. I remember in 08, in a way rougher market than this is nothing. It took probably a good year before sellers would drop their prices to a reasonable price. And by reasonable price, I mean a price where a buyer would actually say yes and buy it. They knew the market tanked. And they were thinking, I got to drop 10, 20 grand. We're looking at 60, 70, $80,000, maybe 100 grand or more in some cases to get your home sold. That is a painful reduction, to say the least. And so it took people a lot of time and a lot of soul searching and just watching the news and hearing the same thing over and over and over. And finally they say, fine, I get it. This is where we need to be. I don't think that the market's anywhere near that. I think we've actually got a pretty healthy market right now. But I do think we've got a lot of people who looked at the peak of the market and they're like, holy smokes, I want what my home was worth. I'll tell you, my home was probably worth about $50,000 more at the peak than it's worth now. And so people will latch onto that one number they saw on Zillow or a realtor told them or whatever, and they can't let go of it and face reality. Well, now we're seeing people face reality, which is great for buyers. And honestly, it's great for motivated sellers, right? So now we're going to look at the next 4 rows, and this focuses not on actives, but on solds, actual sales. These matter way more to me than actives, okay? Now you can see last July, we had 590 sales in a 45-day span. Then it dropped to 545. Then it plummeted to 398. In February, it was 329. Ooh, that's scary. But now in March, it came up dramatically. And holy smokes, in April, not only did it come up, but if you compare it to the first Monday in April last year, it's only 3 less. It's virtually the same doggone number. So our sales have not changed. Yeah, we got a little bit more competition, 20, 25%, but our sales really haven't changed, which is great. They're nice and healthy. They were lagging for a moment, but they came back, which is good. And you can see from the first of the year, the lower end properties up to 500 grand are up 29.4%. And the higher end properties are actually selling 37% more than they were at the beginning of the year. All right. So this is phenomenal. These are some good numbers. Median sales price. This has kind of blown my mind. If you watch the news, if you read statistics, by reading statistics, I mean statistics put out by the news, you would think that the market is crashing. That's what you would think. And if I were to open this up and you could see every single Monday, so would there be 52 and roughly a quarter's worth would be 13. So it'd be about 65 Mondays here. What you would see is that 95% of them are between 415 and 425. Even looking at this row right here, right? Here's one that was lower. Here's one that was under 415. 2 were lower. Every other one, 415 to 425. And we're right smack dab in the middle of that at 419.9. So prices have not dropped. Now, because we've got more inventory, and we're about to talk about inventory, right? We got 2,119 on the market versus 1,556 last year. But we've got virtually the same sales, 521 versus 524. Because we've got more inventory, it's harder to get your price. It takes more time. You got to do more. You got to price it right. You got to stage it. You got to get the right realtor. You got to know how to negotiate. You got to do all the right things. But the good news is the prices really haven't changed. Now let's look at inventory. With inventory, you can see back here, the whole year was kind of the same. July was pretty dang strong. But as a whole, so this is the whole market, Port St. Lucie. And then this is breaking it up into 2 different price points, up to 500 grand, 500 grand, and higher. Okay. Did I just change the So the market as a whole, we had 141 days. Now we have 183. We had 110 on lower end properties. Now we got 141. It's a month more. We had 248 days on higher end properties. Holy smokes, it's almost 100 days more at 337. That's the bad news. The good news is if you look at January, it's pretty doggone close to where we're at now. In fact, it's a little bit lower. And as a buyer, you don't want a lot of inventory. I'm sorry, as a seller, you don't want a lot of inventory because that's your competition. It's who you got to compete against, right? So when I say we've got 183 days worth of inventory, what that means is if we look at all the listings currently on the market, 2,119 listings, and we're selling homes at the rate we've been selling them for the last 45 days, which is 521 homes, it would take us, assuming we take on no other listings, 183 days to sell out all of those listings. I remember in the peak of COVID, it was 19 days. I'll never forget that. It was crazy. 19 days. It was nuts. And I remember thinking, who's selling in 19 days? I can't keep a house on the market for more than 3 days, right? It was crazy. But now we're looking at 183 days. When you look up to 500 grand at the beginning of the year, it was 153. Now it's 141. And look at how these numbers move throughout the first quarter of the year, right? 197 and then goes up to 274. 153 and then goes up to 222. Same thing with the 500,000 plus. They deserve a too. Right? Then it came down a little bit, 274 to 242, 222 to 198, 428 down to 374. But now it's come down dramatically. We're hitting that spring market. People are out buying. They're doing what they always do, and we're seeing the stats we tend to see. 242 down to 183, 198 down to 141, and 374 down to 337. So we're in a much more, I would say overall, the market you could say is neutral, but I would argue that that's kind of a silly thing to say because markets are so different, right? The $650,000 market is much different than the $325,000 market. You're going to see that 325, assuming it's priced right, it's staged all the right things. It's going to sell. It's going to sell. You might even get multiple offers. Just had one sell last weekend, multiple offers. Now, if you're at 650, 758, there's almost a year's worth of inventory. You could be doing all the right things. It's still a challenge. It's still a challenge. So you want to make sure you've got, this is a pitch for realtors. I'm a realtor, but I'm pitching them anyway. You've got to get a professional in there. You got to get someone who's full-time. You got to get someone who knows how to market. You got to get someone who's out there prospecting diligently for new buyers for you specifically every single day. It is a game changer, and it's going to dramatically change the success that you have in being able to not only sell your home, but to be able to sell it quick and for top dollar. You need a pro. You need a pro. So, guys, there's some stats. I hope that this was, helpful, valuable, also a little entertaining. Maybe we got a little entertainment in there. But thanks for joining me. We're usually here every single Wednesday at 11 o'clock where we have the Florida Treasure Coast Market Update. But again, we had to switch it this week, so we got it in a little bit early for you. But if you've got something that you'd like me to focus on in the market in Port St. Lucie, anywhere on the Treasure Coast, feel free to put it in the comments and we can absolutely do it next Wednesday. Guys, thanks for joining me and have a wonderful week.